Tonight, booster shots fast-tracked in the fight against Omicron as cases are confirmed in SA. A man charged with attempted murder over a shooting at Ross Trevor. Dozens dead as tornadoes smash 6 US states. We're live to the disaster zone. The multi-million-dollar plan to create more affordable housing in Adelaide. And Alex CAREY reflects on his dream debut ahead of his hometown test.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Jane Doyle.
Good evening. Vaccination booster shots are being fast-tracked in the fight against Omicron, with confirmation today the new strains arrived in South Australia. You can now get an extra jab after 5 months instead of 6. But the state governments come under fire over how long people are being forced to isolate.
We've all heard of a baker's dozen, but this baker's just lost half a dozen staff in one night.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
They were all forced into quarantine after an Omicron-positive customer paid them a midnight visit. And because it's the new variant, they're isolating for 14 days, not 7.
They're all vaxxed. They're all double vaxxed. They're all, doing the right thing to be open again. And yet they probably feel betrayed that they are stuck inside and having to isolate, hopefully getting out a day before Christmas.
It's the same for David Oliver and his pet supplies business. But he and his staff have been whisked into a Medi hotel for 2 weeks, even though they've tested negative twice.
Well, it was always going to come. So what are we, surprised by this? It seems very hypocritical to now panic and have a 14-day quarantine.
We do not want a massive Omicron outbreak in South Australia in the lead up to Christmas. We would like to get that back down to 7 days as quickly as possible.
SA recorded 10 new COVID cases today, all of them Delta, and while early data suggests Omicron spreads faster, it seems to have milder symptoms.
We're not sitting there really worried that we're facing a really serious condition from what we see, but we don't want to get it wrong.
That's why the federal government's shortened the time between your second shot and getting a booster.
Done. How quick was that?
The wait is now 5 months instead of 6.
The whole point is to really supercharge immunity so you're much less likely to catch it, and that tiny chance of dying really drops off.
But as more Omicron cases inevitably come in, it's business owners that are crying out for more protection.
It's terrible that we've opened up to Australia and yet we're the one being shut down.
Kimberly Pratt, 7 News.
And Kim joins us now live from the airport. Kim, we're just hours away from Queensland's border opening.
Jane, at 1 a.m, people from Greater Adelaide will be allowed back into the Sunshine State without quarantining, but that doesn't mean there are no rules. Queensland still deems Greater Adelaide a hotspot, which is anywhere between Gawler and Onkaparinga council areas. That means fully vaccinated travellers from those areas must prove they're negative before their departure and get tested again on day 5 if they're still there.
Please don't think that you'll come to the border and you will easily get through. It is a case of there is a compliance system in place, and obviously those checks will be carried out.
Queensland authorities are urging anyone who's thinking about heading up there to pack their patience. It'll be busy because borders are also opening to New South Wales and Victoria for the first time in months. Jane.
Thanks, Kim. Hundreds of people gathered in the city again today for another freedom rally, protesting against vaccine mandates and the use of masks and QR codes.
Currently, we don't have the choice of freedom. People are being coerced into taking the injection to keep their job, feed their children.
Organisers also argue there should be no travel restrictions between states. A man's been charged with attempted murder over a shooting incident at Ross Trevor last night. Nearby streets were shut down as heavily armed Star Group officers arrested the accused gunman.
In the back streets of Ross Trevor, a man is handcuffed and marched to an awaiting police car.
I'm just quite horrified.
The dramatic response sparked after a man was allegedly threatened and shot at inside this Jury Avenue home around 10 last night. Police say it started as an argument between two men and quickly turned violent. The victim, a 52-year-old man who lives at the address, wasn't injured. Streets were shut down as heavily armed officers descended on the home.
They were all
armed and with laser glasses and night vision glasses and cameras.
Once cordons were established, police managed to arrest the alleged gunman without incident.
They also had advised me to keep an eye out for where the firearm might be around my garden.
This morning, police returned to the scene, officers and the dog squad searching for the weapon.
It never happened like this before. It was like in the movies.
It's still unclear what sparked the incident, but neighbours say there's been problems at the home ever since the victim moved in 6 months ago. As well as attempted murder, the 54-year-old man arrested is also facing charges of property damage and possessing a firearm without a licence. He will spend the night behind bars and appear in court tomorrow.
At least they've arrested him, so that's a relief.
Nathan Regter, 7 News.
There's mass devastation in parts of America tonight where tornadoes have smashed through half a dozen states, levelling entire towns and leaving a death toll that's almost certain to rise. One monster twister cut a destructive path across 4 states, while 2 others were slammed by separate systems. The hardest hit state was Kentucky. Locals there bore the brunt of the storm cell and are now left to deal with what's being called the worst disaster in the state's history. US correspondent Tim Lester is there.
This